Welcome, everyone. My name is Louis, and on behalf of the American Friends Service Committee, I welcome you to this opportunity to prove that love overcomes injustice. We will spend this evening talking about and learning from those who have figured out a way to care across prison walls and jails and systems of incarceration that impact not just those in the criminal justice system, but the immigration system alike. What we will hear today should motivate us, should cause us to figure out ways beyond our traditional sense of how do I fix things, to step into a system that has proven to be nothing but harmful, but yet done in our names. So I welcome you, and we look forward to a very powerful conversation with some amazing speakers who will both give us stories of love and challenges for justice. I'd like to start by just giving you a little bit about what brings me to this space in a very personal way. It's a day I'll never forget. My mom called me February 2nd, 1990, and she said, "I need you to come over. The police have just taken your brother." Okay, what's up? Didn't really know what was going on. But long story short, for the next 22 years, New York State prison system determined how my mother became a mother to her son. They told her how she could speak to him, whether or not she could touch him, what she could bring for him, if she would be allowed to spend any time on trailer visits, they called it at the time, to try to be a family. And they broke that relationship. They controlled it and they broke it, not by happenstance, but by intent. There is no doubt in my mind that the systems that we call immigration and in the criminal justice system are not systems of justice or fairness, but systems of control and retribution. And the impact is wide and personal. One of the most personal impacts that I've experienced is how it impacted my mom and her ability to be a mom to my brother. We will hear similar stories today from those who have been challenged with parenting from either side of the wall, those whose children have been taken away and those who were taken away from their children. Through those stories, I hope that we will be motivated. I trust that we will, and I will watch for how that motivation shows up in all of us. Because just as those systems were built in our name, they can be dismantled and abolished in our name if we dare take the step towards that. So with that, I'm excited to turn over the remainder of today's webinar to my friend and colleague, Anyango, who will lead us through a series of illuminating stories and motivating messages. Anyango, thank you.
Thank you so much, Louis. My name is Anyango Reggie Gregory, and I work for American Friends Service Committee in the Atlanta office, and I've been involved with the Freedom All coordinating team. And this Mother's Day, the Freedom All campaign will highlight the strength and resiliency of mothers and caregivers who are forced to parent their children across walls, mothers in immigration detention who are separated from their children, mothers whose loved ones are in jail, and the incredible labor of all mothers and caregivers who are leaders in the struggle for a more just world. It's a privilege for me to be able to facilitate this conversation, to hear the stories and the resiliencies of these mothers in Swahili, which is another language that I speak where in Kenya, where I grew up. We call them mamas, the stories of these mamas, these aunties, these caregivers who will speak their truth. It's such a gift. And so I honor you. I invite you to hear these stories for the gift that they are. And I want to thank these mamas for sharing their stories. And I will introduce the speakers for the first panel, which will illuminate the injustices. And after I invite the speakers after I introduce them, I'll invite them to speak, and then we'll have a time for questions and answers. And so I'll first invite Cheryl Conson, a San Diego advocate who runs an initiative called Treat MI. Don't Mistreat MI is active in mothers with sons incarcerated with mental illness. Cheryl, who has 2 incarcerated sons, will speak from a mom's perspective of having a child incarcerated, detained, and deported. And then Jennifer Davis, a formerly incarcerated mother, who will speak to the impact of these injustices on the extended family, specifically with grandmothers who raise their children of incarcerated moms. And then Charlene Schwitz-Raff, a mother of AFSC's Reframing Justice, a member of AFSC's Reframing Justice, will also share the challenges of raising an incarcerated child. And Leticia Moreno, who was at the Otaya facility in San Diego for about 6 months and has a powerful testimony to share. She endured some of the most dangerous conditions due to COVID-19 at this privately run facility. So I want to welcome these mamas to share their stories. We'll start with you, Cheryl.
I'm Cheryl Canson, and I founded the initiative, Treat Me, Don't Mistreat Me. And also I'm a board member of the Peace Resource Center, and I'm a member of All of Us or None. I have 6 children, and I'm a mother of 2 sons that suffer from mental illness and started very young, showing signs of being of just when they were overcompensated or not able to comprehend certain things that happened in their lives. Just the way they responded to it was kind of heartbreaking, and they were unable to handle a lot of stress. But long story short, when they were in school, their mental illness needed to be addressed, and they had an IEP, but still wasn't addressed to the extent that it needed to be, to where their education was tailored and where they could be successful. And so they went along in life. One of my son's first thing was when I first realized that they were in danger and that their lives were being looked at differently because of their race. One day I got a call, and I was told that my sons were around the corner, and I needed to come. I think it was my neighbor. And so I went around the corner and I saw my 2 sons sitting on the curb with their hands behind their backs. And they had to be about 10 and 11. So what it was is they thought they were playing with fire in this little canyon. And I'm not sure to this day if they were. And they're not sure either, but they yet and still had them sitting on the curb with their hands behind their backs. Because when I came, the story was someone was playing in the canyon, where they weren't sure if it were my boys. And so that put me on edge and let me know that my kids were being criminalized even at young. Okay, so they were referred to counseling, and so which they got. But a lot of people don't realize that counseling is a way to treat mental illness and a way to treat different behaviors that kids have that can cause danger or harm. And so therapy is always good. And so they end up in juvenile hall. I feel just because of their mental illness, they were never treated. They were never given a fair chance to be treated and to be able to thrive in their own skin and with their disability that they had to live with. So my kids first got arrested when they were young, 18. They went to prison. And because of their mental illness, they have a double layer of incarceration is already devastating. I was devastated I felt like my kids were kidnapped from me because all along while they were young, I was asking and knocking for help for them. But I saw that they were just being criminalized and looked at overall as problems, and their behaviors were looked at as a nuisance. And this started in the schools. So I want to say that when they were arrested, it was really a sad thing. I asked my one son, what did he do when he first got arrested? And he says, because he suffers with anxiety, he says that he walked back and forth in that little cage until he passed out. No, he said he walked back and forth like a mangy dog, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until he passed out. They told him to stop pacing. He said, but he couldn't, because his life was just interrupted. His mental illness was interrupted. His symptoms were interrupted without any treatment, without any way to make him feel better or help him cope. I tell you, as a mother, there's an umbilical cord that connects the mother to her children. And at birth, when the umbilical cord is broken, is severed, that's just a physical separation. There's never a separation between a mother and her children. To this day, I can feel when my sons are going to call me. And so all the attempts to separate and break families, they don't work. They aren't working. They're just causing us to work harder and to find suitable ways to keep the bonds, to keep my kids knowing that I'm here for them just like I was when they were babies. I'm not any less interested. I have any less love for them. I'm still proud of them because they are who they are. And that's very important. The way the prisons are ran, just the very infrastructure of punishment and punitive runs all through those cells. And my son, one day he called me. I tell you how important those calls are in the visits. One day my son called me and he couldn't reach me. That day, he went psychotic and he got a beating from the prison guards. That was his first time getting beating. The second time getting a beating, the same thing happened. He called me, his brother answered, and I was on a Zoom call like this. And he started spiraling downward just there on the phone. He said, Mom doesn't really want to talk to me, does she? All I have is 15 minutes. And he just, started negative talking to his brother. But I say this to say, and he got a beating later that night from the guards. That was the guards' response to his psychosis and his mental illness, which is very devastating, as well as just the very incarceration itself. There's so many layers of trauma when a child is removed from their parents. I don't care what age it is. What age this happens is devastating to the young children, to the parents that are connected, to the family, to the aunts, the uncles, to the children that are at home. I've had to balance the love that I have for my 16-year-old at home and balance the disappointment and allow it to keep a fire under me to fight for the ones that are torn away from me. And it's been a hard balance, but love has enabled me to do this. Love never fails. And that love keeps my family together. Another ploy that the CDCR has done was remove my kids so many miles away from me, in spite of the hardship letters, letting them know how difficult it is to travel, having a family suffering with mental illness. They still prioritize their need to punish and control by removing my children out of San Diego, where they would have been at Donovan. They moved them far, far away, like Pelican Bay and New Folsom. I'm sorry.
It's okay, Cheryl.
I'm sorry. And where I couldn't get to my children. And so I see them less and less, way less than I would like to, and not to mention COVID caused the visits to be video visits, which don't replace the in-person contact that we all need, that connects our humanity, the touch from one another. I just want to express to you that this Mother's Day and every Mother's Day, I think about the kids that are missing out of my life, and I can't see them anytime I'd like to. I can't talk to them anytime I'd like to. And that plays a part on my happiness. Our kids make us happy. They enhance our lives and vice versa. And so with them being removed this way, like I said, it causes us to create ways to keep the bond strong. It's very important. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Cheryl. Thank you so much for sharing and helping us to understand the toll that this takes on the entire family, and especially on the mama. So, Jennifer?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me well?
Yes. Yes.
So, parenting from prison was very difficult. When I went in, my son at the time had just turned 3, and my daughter was about 8 or turning 8. And, you know, they couldn't understand what happened. They knew that they felt that I wasn't supposed to be gone from them. You know, it was like if we were attached at the hip and someone just sliced us apart, you know. And my daughter, she was a little bit more stronger, or at least tried to be level-headed and strong about the situation, because my son, you know, on visits, he didn't understand why he had to leave, you know, and it was difficult. And as the time went on, you know, you miss out on so much. You know, holidays, birthdays, they grow, they go through abuse from their peers, random people on the street. And sometimes you hear about it, sometimes you don't hear about it till, you know, if you're fortunate enough to come home, you hear about stuff that, wow, no one told you. And you feel like powerless, like you can't do anything. And it kind of can make you, you know, depressed and feel like you're worthless, like maybe you shouldn't even be alive since you can't do anything for them. You know, they go through different, you know, times in their life, and they, you know, like my daughter, when she reached her menstrual cycle, and it was like, oh man, I miss a, you know, a very important moment. Like, oh my gosh, like it was like really, really, really devastating. And I never signed up for what you call it, those visits, the trailer visits, because you know, my grandparents at that time, because they were watching my children, they were getting older as well. It was taking a toll on them as well. So bringing them, or someone finding time to bring them, you know, was a bit much. So, you know, they did have some programs, you know, once I came, you know, closer, because okay, so once I went upstate, you know, I was able to see them a little bit more. You know, certain family members, you know, would alternate between my uncle, my grandparents. Um, Sometimes I didn't even want anyone to come to see me like that, you know, because I see it in their face, like they're here in the room full of strangers. They got to go to vending machines for food, and you know, they have little nice things in there, I guess, you know, to try to dress things up. But the reality is, everyone has to go home, and I have to go back to my cell, you know, at the end of, you know, it all. So it's like you try to be happy in the pain. And when I went when I had to go further away, I didn't see them at all. And it felt like, I don't know, it's something inside you feel when you too far away. It's like, I don't know, it's probably something that a twin would feel for another twin when they feel like something is missing. Because I always felt like I was too far away, and I was even more depressed. Like it was very sad, you know. But my grandfather figured out a way to make some calls, and you know, to get me transferred closer, which fortunately for me worked out. But it still was difficult because where I was, you know, the visits still weren't really coming in like, you know, I would have hoped. And hearing different things, you know, when your children, as they're getting older, now they're living their lives. Now they're getting older. Now it's like, okay, well, she's not around. uh you know, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. And sometimes when I call, it's like, oh, talk to these children. Oh, they don't listen. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm like incarcerated. Like I'm trying to be a parent, but at the same time it's like I'm powerless, because they're listening, but they're not listening. They'll still do what I say don't do. And it's like, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do? And then my family members, like, they would complain, and like they're fed up with them, you know, all little stuff that children are doing, not realizing that they're going through something themselves. Like I said, you know, try to get them some counseling, try to get, you know, do something. But, you know, they would just rather complain and, you know, curse at them, yell at them. And then they were going through, you know, you know, fights and things at school. Some people may have known, and some people, you know, like a friend or so may say, oh, that's why your mother's in prison, that's why you don't have, you know, like it's just, it was really hard for them. And it built up a lot of anger. It built up a lot of anger that even up until this day, even though I'm home, it's like, you know, when you come home, it's like you try to compensate for time lost. And it's like you try to, it's not like you're trying to necessarily buy them, but if you don't know or have the mental understanding of, you know, what it can look like if you don't, you know, read in between the lines of things, it can appear that way, because you're just trying to make up for time lost. You miss birthdays, so when you get a job, you try to help and do things. But the discipline part, when I came home, it was like it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work. And I'm telling you, it's like they kept every minute. Well, you weren't there for me. You were in prison, and you and you and you, and like they was trying to make, it's like they was trying to make me feel bad for not being there, even though they knew the situation. You know, they know I survived. I'm a domestic violence survivor. They know that I was in an abusive relationship. You know, and I tried to be as honest and transparent with them as possible, but they still wouldn't let it go. Even to this day, you know, my daughter may be upset at some point, and if she doesn't like, you know, what I say, well, I'm not going to make the mistakes you made. Well, even I say to this day, but it was more so like probably last year. Sometimes she was upset about something and didn't want like me intervening and threw in my face, well, I'm not going to be like you. I'm not going to make stupid mistakes. I'm not going to get pregnant young. I'm not going to go to prison, all type of stuff. Like, and it was like, it hurt. It took me a long time to not allow my children expressing how they feel towards me, like beat me up, because I did go back and forth in and out of depression. It was more internal because, I usually hold stuff in, and when you think about it over and over and over, you tend to like abuse yourself at some point. But, after a while, when time went on, I had learned to release that and not allow anyone else to keep me prisoner because of something that happened in the past, or because they felt that I owed them something. I mean, they're my children, but at the end of the day, they have to grow up and learn that just because I made, a mistake doesn't mean that you're going to keep, making me feel less than human. I'm still your mother and you're supposed to respect me. So the whole parenting, you know, it's not easy. But what kept me holding on is the fact that, I love my children and I learned to love myself. And that's what gave me the strength, and having faith in the creator. That's what, gave me the strength to hold on so that I was able to be that, bigger person and that mother for my children that they needed, you know. And I know as they got on, they got, as time went by, you know, they did learn to appreciate me more and understand. And, we had our times, but, it's a struggle. It doesn't just stop as soon as you come home. No, it's an ongoing struggle because you can't never, bring back the time lost. It's just no way. But um, parenting from behind bars is not easy. It doesn't get easier when you come home. But I think love is that cohesiveness that's needed to keep, you strong and
Mm.
pushing in the right direction. It is definitely a good motivator.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I heard Cheryl talk about the power of love to help her keep going. And I've heard you speak about the power of love as you were parenting from behind bars. And so I just want to thank you for your story. The questions are coming in the question and answer tab. So we will move to Charlene, and then we will go into some questions. The audience has some good questions for you. So Charlene.
Hi, I'm Charlene Schwickrath, and I have a son who is incarcerated. This is his 14th year, so it's been 14 years of no birthdays, no Mother's Days, no Christmases. 14 years we've been without him here. And parenting to someone who is incarcerated, I have to add, he has a 37-year sentence, so it's not even going to be soon that we will be able to share these things. But I will have to say that he has always made sure that he sends birthday cards, that he calls everybody on their birthday, that he sends Mother's Day cards. I was trying to find one. I haven't gotten one in the mail yet, but I didn't. I didn't have time to look for the last Mother's Day card. I feel like with having a son in prison, I can't even imagine having two sons in prison. My heart goes out to you, Cheryl, so much. But yes, when he was first incarcerated, he was a 4.5-hour drive away. So we tried at first to go to see him at least once a month. And by the end of the 4th year, when he finally wasn't there in that location anymore, we were only going about once every 3 or 4 months, whenever they would have food visits. Was about the only time I could afford to go, because you'd have to get hotel. We're talking almost all day long. He sends messages all day long and questions, and I'm able to find things online that he wants and send them back and forth. And so I feel like I'm probably his rock. He ended up being in a max facility, so he's in solitary confinement, which actually makes it even worse. Talking about mental illness, we've watched him drastically decline over the last, he's been in solitary since 2016. So this will be his 5th year. And we have watched him just drastically changing his mental health. He gets angry and upset, and I don't blame him. You're stuck in a 9x6 room with nothing but the tablet basically, and you can write and those kind of things. So as far as parenting, you have to be there for them. You know, like you said, when they call, you pretty much have to drop what you're doing because they only have 15 minutes. They can't always just call whenever they feel like it. So having an incarcerated child, I'm the mother of 4, he's the oldest, and little by little, even the siblings have dropped off. They don't write to him anymore. His friends, his friends have become the other inmates at this point in time. And that, a lot of time I feel like I'm the only one that he has. And that does put a real burden on me because I have other children, I have grandchildren, and I have had comments from my children too, that I pay more attention to my bad son than I do to the good children. So yeah, parenting is difficult, but you never stop loving them. No matter what they've done, you are not going to stop loving them. And I haven't ever abandoned him, even though sometimes he can get a little out of hand and putting a little too much on me to where I'm just like, we need to take a little breather here. I can't keep doing all these things that he's asking me to do for him all the time. So, but I do love him very much. We miss him so much. And, we still have many years ahead of us to just be there. And so I'm just, hoping that I can physically and mentally continue to help him. What has helped me a lot is finding friends and families that also have incarcerated people, being part of Facebook groups where other people can share that same type of, it changes your family, it really does. And a lot of people don't understand how they don't understand how you can be so attentive to this other person who's in prison. But until it happens to you, people just don't understand what it's like. But yes, we still love them, provide for him. He probably leans on me more than he has ever in his entire life. So we do the best we can to stay in contact. And and like Cheryl said, I think Lewis said that, they dictate, the guards in the prison dictate how I parent. Like I can't say certain things to him. I can't send things to him. They have all the rules and you have to follow. And I do feel like he was kidnapped, and I do feel like he is being held captive, especially where he's in solitary confinement now. So, yep, we just have to keep loving them and being the rock for them.
Thank you, Charlene. And I heard all of you talk about love, and that really speaks to me. We had a 4th panelist who is not here with us yet. So we want to make sure that we are holding her in our thoughts. We make sure everything is okay. We're checking on that right now. So I want to go into questions right now. And Charlene and Cheryl, could you tell us your son's names? Well, that's one of the things that people asked, if you could lift up the names of your sons.
My son's name is Ryan.
Yes, my oldest son's name is Giovanni Jackson. My youngest son's name is Jordan Jackson. The Giovanni touches the Italian in my blood.
Thank you. And in the question and answer, Jennifer, I'll start with you and we can go to all the panelists. People are asking, where do you get your strength from? Tell us about the source of your strength.
I think I pulled it from the universe. It wasn't easy. I mean, I had some times where I battled, you know, within myself, but I go by a philosophy called physician heal thyself. And I believe that to some degree that we all are physicians and we can self-heal or break ourselves down as well. So in my belief in that, and believe in something, believe in a God, whoever you choose your God to be, that helped me in reading scriptures because it wasn't easy. It wasn't always support and love at home either. So that's where I mostly got my strength from.
You want me to go?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I get my strength from God. Get my strength from God. I was raised to know and love God at a young age. And when I felt just hopeless, I knew my source for everything has been God. And so I was already familiar that he would make a way and that he was my source of comfort and strength. And so, yeah, that's where I get my strength from and how I've maintained and pulled through my own mental illness and my own despair. Thank you.
How about you, Charlene? And somebody was also asking you about how long your son has been in confinement.
My son has been in confinement since 2016. So it's been full 4 years that he's been in solitary confinement. And what was your other question?
Where do you get your strength from? And or what, another way to ask it, somebody else asked it this way, what has been most helpful to you to maintaining your strength and faith?
Honestly, I don't even remember how long ago it was, but I reached out to American Friends Service Committee because they were local. They were here in Tucson, and I felt like I needed to talk to somebody who understood what was happening in prison to my son. And they put me in contact with Joe Watson, who was formerly incarcerated, but also worked with American Friends, or he worked for American Friends Service Committee. And then from there, they created Reframing Justice Day, where we go speak to the legislators about bills that might help with sentence reduction, more credits, everything to do with prisons. So I've really gotten a lot of strength from the community that I have joined into, basically. So that is where I would have to say that my strength is come. It really does take a village, and I have figured out who my people are, and that's where my strength comes from. When I have questions, I can ask people who understand. My family, my own family doesn't even understand, so it's hard to even talk to them about things that are going on with my son. So that's I think it's been the biggest blessing of all. It was to find American Friends Service Committee and get in contact with all the people that they have introduced me to. That's given me a lot of strength.
Thank you. The other question that people asked was, I thought that was a really good question, was that what would have helped you the most to feel that others cared besides your family? So Charlene, you talked about you knew who your people were. What would have helped you to feel like other people cared for you?
I think a lot of what would help is if people would just educate themselves a little bit instead of just, oh, they're bad people, they're in prison, they belong there forever. But, they're just, people are really ignorant when it comes to the judicial system. They don't know from the time somebody's arrested to the time they're sent to prison, They don't know anything about it. And so they have preconceived ideas of how things are and that these are all bad people that are in prison. No, they're not. There are sons, there are daughters, there are moms, there are aunts, uncles, next door neighbor, nephews, there are family. That's who's in prison, is our family members. And one day they will get out and they will be in our neighborhoods again. And I just feel like people need to understand that prison is not the answer. I'm all for abolishing prison because it has done absolutely nothing good. There's not one good thing I could say about what prison has done.
Cheryl, would you like to answer that question?
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
What would have helped you to feel like others cared besides your family? What would have helped you feel like what in this process? What helps you feel like others care for you?
Being able to talk to others who are empathetic and compassionate, being the same ones and family members and kids and parents in the same space to learn, just like we're doing here. This is very helpful to hear from others and strengthen one another with our stories and our sharing our strengths and our struggles. And yeah, this is very helpful. Thank you.
Yes, you're getting a lot of love in the chat. People are talking about the power of your stories and the power of being part of a village that cares for you and is concerned about, we're concerned about one another. There's this idea of community care or a healing space for all of us. Somebody else had a question here. Just bear with me a little bit with my chat. Somebody said, God bless you all and thank you. As a person approaches parole or release, was there counseling or guidance to assist with adjustment of returning to society, family relationships, jobs? It seems this would make sense, but is it a reality? Jennifer, I was wondering if you could take that question.
Honestly,
what kind of support?
Honestly, I've heard of things like that available and more geared towards men. But when I reached out and was trying to find support, there was none, unfortunately. And honestly, I was thinking about it recently that there needs to be one. And if there was some way that I could, work towards that, I definitely would, because a woman coming home, I didn't see any work program. I live in Long Island, so there was no work programs for women to transition into society, places that will accept people with felonies or that was previously incarcerated. It was very challenging to find any kind of job that would hire you, as well as like there's programs that they may want you to do, but are they all geared towards helping you? From my experience, I'm going to say no, because I asked the questions from these people that were hosting whatever programs that the facility required me to do, and there it was like I don't want to say it, but like I don't want to make anyone look bad or feel bad or whatever position they were in, but it feels like I felt like a lot of people were there basically to get a check, and no one was really concerned about the well-being, the welfare of us making a difference in society, and that needs to change.
Amen. Well said. Well said. Well said. Cheryl, these systems, these carceral systems are, as we know, as you have all said, they're not designed to keep families together. They're actually designed to tear families apart. In your opinion, what can be put in place to maintain that bond with mothers and their children, or caregivers and their children? What needs to be put in place?
Well, we need to get in positions of influence, which is a reason why I initiated and founded Treat Me, Don't Mistreat Me, to elevate a platform where I could connect with other people in the community, like the County of San Diego, which I have done, connected with the liaison who's behavioral health. He's a liaison to the CDCR. And so we've been talking about creating housing opportunities for our people when they are released from prison, so that they won't be set up to recidivize and to go back to the life that caught them up in this system in the first place. So things like this need to happen, and we need to connect with people who are influential in creating programs and services and resources that help our people when they are released from prison. And that's what I'm doing within my Treat Me, Don't Mistreat Me.
Thank you, Cheryl. I'm going to take a couple more questions. You're getting a lot of really good questions. So I'm just trying to pick the ones that we have time to answer. But Charlene, what kind of solidarity from mothers not experiencing forced family separation do you think could help challenge the mass incarceration and detention that breaks families apart?
Say that again. What was the question?
What solidarity from mothers not experiencing forced family separation? What solidarity could other mothers give that would be helpful, that would feel supportive?
Mothers who do not have children who are incarcerated?
Yes.
Yeah, it's back to education. I think that people are just so naive when it comes to the judicial system. I think that mothers who don't have children who are incarcerated need to understand and be educated on the subject of what incarceration does do to families, and what it's really not even just the family, it's the whole entire community. What incarceration has done to the entire community. They have taken people out of jobs. They've taken dads away from their children. My son has a 14-year-old daughter. She was born 3 weeks after he was arrested. So she had contact with him until she was 14 years old. Until she was 4 years old. And then she's not seen him anymore. They just kind of gave up. So, that's even wrecked her life. And in some ways, she doesn't have a father figure in her life. And so I feel like other mothers need to understand that incarceration they're not just throwing bad people in there. It can happen to anybody. You're just, one day, how it happened to me, one day I look at the news and there's my son's face on the 6 o'clock television. And I thought somebody had hurt him. I thought that he was the one that had been hurt instead of, someone else. So it never occurred to me that he would have been involved in that kind of a crime. But yes, other mothers I think it just really keeps coming back to education.
Education, that's so important. And that's so important to remind us that it could happen to any of us, right? We sometimes people want to think it's those people, right? It happens to those people.
Yes.
But this is something that it's all, everybody should be concerned about. Jordan says, thank you so for sharing so much with us. As somebody who has a family member who has been incarcerated, this has been so healing and validating to hear you speak. People are really feeling, sending a lot of love for you and appreciating you, the courage to tell your stories. Melissa says, Echoes of Incarceration is a program dedicated to children of incarcerated parents and guardians. Women are always left out. So it's very important that we're hearing from mothers. I want to take this last question. What do you think can be done for parents / mothers who are incarcerated to assist with maintaining the bonds with their families, while they're in prison? And this one is specifically for Jennifer.
There's a possibility of someone like, I guess, getting a bus chartered somehow that could, round up children and bring them on visits to see their parents. Some places, if they don't have activity centers, maybe they could build an activity center for children to be able to make like Mother's Day cards and other, sorts of things where they can create or begin to create a bond. Because remember, there's some women that, were pregnant when they went in and never seen, the child, and, getting that so they don't lose that detachment, and the parent don't feel like or the child doesn't see the parent as a stranger, because you don't want that to ever be the case. I think, you know, around there, I think that's a good place to start.
I would like to interject something into
Please,
that
sure.
because
Yes.
like I am an administrator in a pretty large Facebook group, and we have that question come up once in a while. I don't think that they should be charging anything for children to talk to their parents on the phone. I think they should be given as much access to the parent as possible to say good morning, when they come home from school, to say, what happened to them during school. And that thing, I do not believe that anybody who has a child should have to pay for those phone calls at all. That's my thing. That would help to keep them. There's so many mothers who's, they're having to work 2 jobs to even support the family without the father there, the husband there. And then to have to pay these exuberant prices on phone calls is just absolutely ridiculous. And a lot of them just can't afford it. They just can't afford to have the child talk to the sorry, I'm reading the notes at the same time here. They just can't afford to have the child talk to the parent as much as the child needs to talk to the parent.
Very, very important. Lucy, you put in the chat, lifting up Cheryl's petition for her son. Lucy put the link in the chat, so please click on that link, and let's all be committed to supporting this petition by Cheryl. And then Lewis reminded that I've been told that the origin of Mother's Day was to encourage mothers to support each other. So this solidarity with mothers is so important. I want to thank Jennifer, Charlene, and Cheryl for taking the time to tell your stories and to sharing with us so transparently and so passionately and with us, and just we commit to be in solidarity with you for as you are mothers supporting your children, and with other mothers who are parenting from prison, or who are have children who are behind bars, in cages. And so we want to thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
They're still with us. Our panelists are still with us, but we're gonna shift gears a little bit to talk about, so what do we do? And so we have 3 panelists with us who are going to talk about ending the injustice. And we have Melissa Springs, who is a formerly incarcerated mom who serves on AFSC's program committee, board program committee, and the board of the Women's Prison Association. She'll speak on the efforts to mitigate the harm of the carceral state on moms and their children. And then we have Denzel Burke from Final Five Campaign, who will speak on efforts to close youth facilities and free all our children. And then finally, we'll have Kristen Kump who is the director of the Human Migration and Mobility with American Friends Service Committee. And Kristen will connect these injustices to the broader call for free them all and abolition. So Melissa, we will start with you.
Good evening. If I may, I would like to start with a poem that I wrote June 27, 2017. It's called Release with Nowhere to Go. Your neighbor, my friend, he was released today. You remember him, and had nowhere he was. I'm sorry, you remember him and had no idea where he was or what happened to him. He was a great person, as you recall. Then one night he took a ride with some friends. He had no idea what they had planned on doing. He didn't know that their actions would affect the next 5 years of his life. He sat silently in the car waiting for them to return with items purchased from a store. To hear the commotion of screams, arguments, and gunshots confused him. Then the sirens and cop cars everywhere. Your neighbor, my friend, he was arrested this day, sentenced for a crime he did not commit. While inside, faced with some of the most wicked men, what skills will he learn upon his return? Will he be better or will he do worse? Don't you forget your neighbor, my friend, will return one day. It's something that happened in 2017, and I can't remember the incident, but it caused me to write that piece at that moment. And I just wanted to share that because what people fail to realize is we do come home. And when we return, we need to return with a plan to prevent returning, right? For me, I considered myself blessed because I came from a village of loved ones, family, friends, a community that took time and took care of me. By the way, I was arrested and I was arrested 32 years ago. I left a 3-year-old behind. When I went to prison, it was people that was nice people. It was mothers, it was grandmothers, it was sisters, it was aunts, it was sister so-and-so from the church, it was, you name it, it was our family members. What kept me besides faith, prayer, and my family support was the community that I joined inside that were more like people that I can relate to when I was on the outside. So that's what I tried to surround myself, with. Being the only daughter of my mom, it brought on an embarrassment because my mom was is an educator. She stood for certain standards. My father looked at it as his little girl was incarcerated. It didn't matter. He was upset more with the fact that I was there, not that I was there because of. The prison system is designed to tear us down, to destroy us. But what they forget is when we return, and it could be male or female, we're coming back into a community that are oftentimes afraid of us because they hear the word prison. You were in jail. I did 10 years with the federal government. So me returning after 10 years, people were looking at me like, well, the ones that thought I was in college just thought I was this super smart girl, and we have a joke in a family, my nephews and my son, they used to come visit me and the big sign said Federal Bureau of Prison. And my mom kept telling them, your mom and your aunt is away in college. So that's a running joke right there. Tell the kids the truth. They're in prison. Just shame the devil and tell the truth, It's jail, it's reality. But that's something I just always laugh about. We're returning. Basically, what needs to be put in place is a support system that can provide not only skills, but education in order to survive when you go back outside. Everybody don't have what I may have had. Everybody don't have what Jennifer may have had. And I've seen it often. I feel like one of the lucky ones because my children didn't have to go into the foster care system. I worked with women that was incarcerated through WPA. And we have alternative to incarceration where your child was in foster care. But if you have no place to live, how are you fighting to get your child back? So what we do, we go into the system, fight for the child, and put the parent in this program along with the child. So now what the courts have no negative thing to say if we're holding the client, because we don't like to say incarcerated inmate, we like to say the client, right, or the participant, because they're more than 149-01016. You understand? My name is Melissa. You understand? So we provide a safety net anywhere between 8 months to 24 months. It depends on your circumstance. It depends on your structure. It depends on your background. And if you, some people don't have the community, so it depends, all of that plays a part in how long you will participate in these programs. And it's up to you to earn your second chance if that's what you want. You know, I was a part of a mentor program where I didn't even want to be a part of the mentor program. The funny thing is I joined WPA because I went to see a screening by default. I went to a screening for someone else that wasn't able to attend the screening. And I took at the time my new son, he's not new, but you know, he was the second son that was born after I came out. And he had to be around 9 years old. He's going to be 22 this year, but he was around 9 years old. He was the only child at this screening. I didn't really know what I was going to see. And it was a screening of Crime After Crime. And it was about a young woman that had went to prison in Compton. I believe she was from Compton. And long story short, something had happened to her daughter, and the neighborhood gang found out that the guy that was threatening her had raped the daughter. She knew nothing about the hit on him, whatever. Anyway, he ended up dead. She ended up in prison for it, but knew nothing about it. So watching this film, it brought so many different emotions. It didn't even have anything to do with the fact I had already did a sentence. I had done blocked that part out. And I wouldn't say I forgot, but I tried to like dismiss it. So here I am sitting here watching this default film with a 9-year-old, the only kid in the audience. And after the thing was over, someone came up to me. They had a Q&A and I stayed for everything. And someone came up to me and said, hey, would you like to be a mentor or just come check out one of our programs in Brooklyn? And I said, girl, no, I'm not doing that. Automatically off the book. On my train ride home with the 9-year-old, he started asking me all these questions. I said, I don't know, but I can find out. I don't know, but I can find out. Thank God for the 9-year-old, because it prompted me to reach out to the same woman that had originally asked me to do the mentorship program. So I went and sat in on a Monday at this mentor program, and there was a lot of different women there. And I liked what they were saying, and I was intrigued. I said, okay, I'm going to try this. Jennifer Davis happened to be one of the women that was incarcerated at the time. And I said, well, I never wrote a woman in prison, but okay, I'll write it. So I reached out to her, you know, I explained to her, I'm a part of this project. I'm new, I'm trying this thing. And hi, how you doing? Is there anything I can do to assist you with? She wrote me back with all this attitude. What are you getting out of this? Why are you writing me? I don't even know you. And it was so funny. And I said, you know what? I'm not getting anything out of it. I understand your concerns. I've been there, but if you want a friend, I'm here, blah, 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 blah. And fast forward, because I think that was what, 2007, I think around that time. And fast forward, we're in 2021 now. So that's why I do it now, because if I can make a difference for one or two, I've done something, right?
Melissa?
Yes.
Can I interrupt you if you do not mind? And I don't mean to be rude, but Denzel, who's one of the panelists, has to jump off. So I was wondering if you mind just pausing for briefly and then get Denzel on before he has to leave. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you, sis. Thank you, sis. Denzel, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you so much for staying.
No problem. Do you want me to just go right ahead? I'm
Go
so
ahead.
sorry, Melissa. I didn't mean to slow you
Melissa's
down or
family.
anything.
Melissa's family. So.
Thank you. So it's a pleasure to be on the call today and having a chance to, you know, speak on a campaign that I am a part of, and get a chance to also hear about, you know, all of you all situations and experiences with the carceral system. I too have been incarcerated. When I was in juvenile, I spent 5 years in juvie. And so being like a young person that's like locked up and having to like, you know, see my mom at visits, and then having her like struggle to you know, get transportation because like some of the juvenile prisons I was in was like downstate, was like it was very hard for me and challenging. So I definitely like you know, feel like, you know, the love and the like barriers that are, you know, in front of you when, you know, I actually like I'm a lobbyist now for like really like I think Charlene was mentioning like, you know, like the state or the jail, or somebody should pay like for the phone calls, because you shouldn't have like a parent who can't afford to, you know, see their child or talk to them like and not be able to, you know. So I just I definitely like, you know, echo that. Also, yeah, I did just want to, you know, educate everybody about the campaign that I do work for. After getting out, I got connected with Northwestern Child and Justice Family Center, and they had plans to launch a campaign, a youth-led campaign to, you know, abolish juvenile prisons and close down prisons in the state of Illinois. And you know, luckily enough for me, when I came on, I was a part of like focus groups when I first got out to, you know, educate policymakers and lawmakers about what the young people have to say about the system entirely, you know, because they're the ones actually going through it. And, you know, most of probably the, you know, people in charge of running everything have never even experienced being locked up or even have family, you know, just been locked up. So we help focus groups with young people inside, you know, these facilities that even I was locked up at. So like 2 weeks after I was getting out, you know, I had this opportunity, and it was also a paid opportunity. So like I needed money, and the person I work with and everybody a part of the whole, you know, team for this, you know, this project was very supportive and caring about, you know, my situation, me coming back home. And I also connected well with young people who are currently inside. So I was able to like, you know, get, hear their voices and let them know, or actually hear from them about what they have to say about how we can make the system better, and in cycles of incarceration, and what type of resources they need to be provided to, you know, so they know never come back. But a part of the campaign now I do work for is called the Final Five campaign. And so our efforts, like we've been saying, is to close like the Final Five youth prisons. Currently right now they're in development for creating an additional prison, even though I believe 3 have been closed already in Illinois. So right now we've been like, you know, fighting tooth and nail to like not get that new facility open, because what the state is trying to say is that, you know, they're opening up these new, you know, youth centers. Like in Illinois, they're not called prisons, like they're called like youth centers. So the way it sound and the way they like describe it is in a way that doesn't reflect how it truly is. And they have barbed wires and it sells just like anywhere else. So you know, I found that, you know, being incarcerated myself, that especially like for young people, like I was like, you know, I had just turned 15, like, you know, you dealing with a lot of young people, you know, who've experienced a lot of trauma, you know what I'm saying? Like I got a chance to like talk to young people and like, you know what I'm saying, like my peers at the time. And it was just amazing some of the like, you know, how resilient they were to even like, you know, be in front of me and, you know, talk and share like different experiences, which ultimately even me as a young person understanding why maybe like things have transpired to like, you know, maybe lead them into you know, incarcerated as well. And you know, that's deep for me. So through the campaign, what we're trying to do also is you know, not just close down prisons, but, you know, reallocate the funds to like these communities where, you know, these young people are going back to, and open up, you know, centers to help, you know, really like build like, you know, their character and education and trades, you know, just like all type of different programs. I feel like even, you know, while I was even incarcerated, because, you know, I realized in juvie, even though it's not as worse as like adult prison, it's like bad though too, because like you know, like you have like they give us programs and different things like that so that you get a chance to like see that there's like, you know, different things out there. But like when you go back home to your community, you don't have it. Like I was a part of like yoga and, you know, working out, different things like that. And that was cool. But trying to like, you know, open up avenues in my life, like through, you know, like college and things like that is what like was the route that I was trying to take. But like also young people, like, you know, having them around me who were like, you know, very skilled at drawing or, you know, just a plethora of different, like, you know, possibilities for their like lives. I feel like prisons like don't really like help, you know, bring that into fruition if you follow me. And I feel like what it does is just have you sit around a long time and you don't really do anything. And, you know, like me, I used to read books and stuff all the time, but at the same time, I feel like most of my days are getting wasted. And like the places like that you're in, like when you're incarcerated, it's like this is all supposed to be about like, you know, rehabilitating you and helping you become a better person when you come home, but it really doesn't feel like that. So in light of the campaign, you know, what we do is like you know, we have a very big group now, like, you know, we having more young people like, you know, join our campaign. I've been able to like, you know, invite all my friends, like even people that I've been incarcerated with to join the campaign and, you know, get paid and also be in different like groups. Like we have a communications group. I'm in a reentry group that like focuses and specializes around like young people reentering back into the community and helping them, you know, just with like life, you know what I'm saying? Like regular stuff, DMV, like, you know, just checking in with people, also like getting them other resources for trainings and different things like that. We have a podcast group that I'm a part of as well as we hold roundtables to like kind of like with young people who've been incarcerated or a part of DCFS and like speak on their situations to help enlighten others about, you know, and be more empathetic. We do a lot of like, you know, rallies and things like that to, you know, engage with policymakers and things like that because we're a state campaign to, you know, close these youth prisons down and actually like, you know, follow through with the words that they're saying, which is like, you know, opening up these youth development centers and things like that. And we just really want to, you know, close prisons and bring children back to their families and their mothers because like throughout my like 5 years, like it was like heartbreaking to like be around so many young people, like because like I was a young person. I feel like that a lot of staff and teachers always came to me and they said like, you know, you're gifted and we feel like you could do so much more. Like what are you in for? And I always just be like, you know, I'm from Chicago. Like it's almost like kind of inevitable. You know what I'm saying? You get locked up or shot and stuff like that. So I don't even really know what to say half the time. But being around young people like who like just crazy good at math or this or that and just seeing like, you know, like even asking them like, why are you coming back? Or because like me, I had a longer time there. So even for like younger people coming in, like, I'm like, why are you coming back and things and this, you know, almost out of their control because they so young, you feel me? Like 14, 15, 16, not even out of high school. So with the campaign though, what we're trying to do is just like, you know, really close down these youth prisons and it's like millions and millions of dollars getting like poured into like juvenile prisons that I feel like haven't done like that much success in like deterring. And you know, with the campaign now, we actually really I feel like doing a good job with trying to push the needle in the right direction with you know, a lot of lawmakers, especially Illinois, are saying they, you know, trying to be transformative and restorative and rehabilitative because historically, like, you know, prisons aren't really that. So, you know, they changed the name to like centers and different things like that. So we just trying to like, you know, hold them true to their word and, you know, they haven't been. So we really like ultimately want to close them all down and just bring young people back to their mothers at home because, you know, a lot of, you know, people look at me and they be like, well, prison must have did like some good for you because like, you know, you a good young man, you know, in college and you're doing all this good work and you bringing other young brothers on to like, you know, even, you know, young dudes from like Kankakee, like all over, you know what I'm saying? Illinois, they're like, I'm just from Chicago and like, I'm having an impact on like, I got dudes like texting me now, like, you know, just checking up like, hey, how you doing, man? And they've been locked up and it's good to have that type of network. So through the campaign, you know, we just trying to, you know, definitely like, you know, push to close these prisons and reunite young people with their family and, you know, bring these like like this large amounts of money, like very large amounts of money that are being poured into these facilities that are also like lowering in numbers as well. So like it's still the same amount of money. So like the budget is kind of fixed. And when the numbers do go down, like it doesn't change. So like the place that I was in, and I'm sorry if I'm taking too long, but like even one of the facilities I was in is like massive, you know what I'm saying? It's like a town, like a mini town or something. And I was in juvie, and you gotta like get picked up and drove to like the, you know, the hospital or the, you know, school and things like that. And it's like y'all spending all this money to like make all this run when like, you know, like we did the numbers and what it counted back to was like it's almost like $100,000 for 1 year to incarcerate one young person in the state of Illinois. And that was like, you know, old, so it's like probably more now. And I didn't feel like I got $100,000 scholarship, you know what I'm saying, a year while I was locked up. Not even close, because we always wore the same clothes and the food was always bad. And my mother had to pay for phone calls and travel herself all the way, however many miles she doesn't have a car, you know what I'm saying? So that stress and that burden put even on me, like I don't even want to call because I know maybe my phone minutes are running out and I know my mom might not have a lot of money. So when she hears that, you know, she has to add more money and she might not have it, you know what I'm saying, causing that stress. And even me having to think about that, like not having that my mother's like culture and, you know, that upbringing, like just that togetherness in the family setting, it really strips you away from that. So we really recognize these things and like mental health, and you know, it's so important. So I'm glad to like really be a part of this campaign because it's real, you know, like I'm an abolitionist 100%. I don't feel like the prisons made me who I am today. I feel like I've been me throughout that whole time. I was just able to like stay away from the BS because it's like, you know, it's that, you know what I'm saying, because of how prisons, like, you know, they're made, like they're kind of made to even make, you know, it harder on you. So you can't even, you know, like you gotta even understand why somebody might even be aggressive or angry, and you're like, how could you not? Like I remember getting angry and lashing out, and they're like, you know, Denzel, you're so smart and this and that. Like, how could you lash out? It's been a year of you, like, you haven't got your last, you know, in trouble in like a year. Why are you doing that? I'm like, I've been perfect for a year. Y'all watching me all the time. Y'all got cameras on me all the time, you know? So it's tough. And I really wish, I don't wish that on nobody else. You know what I'm saying? I have younger brothers as well that have been incarcerated, you know, after me. So I'm definitely trying to lead by example now. And the campaign is like, you know, done a lot for me, and been able to give me a chance to like, you know, encourage others to be a part of this as well. So I feel like we have much success coming to us with closing down prisons in Illinois. And I hope, you know, if you guys can, you know, keep in contact and follow up with us. Maybe Debbie, you can drop the, you know, our Instagram, our pages and different like things like that in the chat so you guys can keep up and follow up. We always have different like meetings to the public, and just a lot of young people like who've been incarcerated and they're out now, they're doing good, just to, you know, kind of like present on what we've been doing with the campaign and, you know, our working group. So thank you guys for having me on too, and, you know, hearing me out. I do hope that, you know, like any mother who has a child, like, you know, with Mother's Day, just, you know, stay strong and know that it does mean a lot to, you know, get your letters and phone calls. And it takes a lot out of us too, you know, like I think it was Charlene, I may have heard like your son refer to you like, or you refer to your son as your rock. And I remember like when I was like, turning like 16, I wrote my mom this letter and I was like, you my rock. And it was like crazy because it was like, that's the same type of connection I have with my mom. And I think we from two different whole states and, you know, different ages, and we all human, you know, at the end of the day, we all got, you know, blood and we have emotions and we love our loved ones. So I hope that you guys stay strong and know that, you know, it means the world to like have you in our corner. So thank you, and happy Mother's Day to all the moms.
Thank you so much, Denzel. Thank you so much for staying. I know that you had something to do afterwards, but we appreciate you for staying and just telling your story and inspiring us and encouraging us. Did you have information on the Final Five campaign that you wanted to drop in the chat?
Yeah.
Debbie's.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you so much, Debbie. Yeah, if you guys can just click the link, you guys can follow us, check us out. Like we have a lot of like stuff for the public. There's a lot of different opportunities to like engage with the campaign. So it's just really great to like be a part of this. So thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you, Denzel. You've got a lot of love in the chat saying you're inspiring, you're hope for this generation and the next. And thank you, Debbie, for posting the IG and the website in the chat. And Melissa, thank you for yielding your time. We appreciate that. You are awesome. And thank you for, Melissa has put information on her program too, right, Melissa? That's correct. You put it in the chat. Okay. So thank you for that. Yes, and Melissa, I took away 2 minutes. So if you want to reclaim your 2 minutes, or you're good.
I'm good. I was just saying it was 3 programs. I'm no longer with the WPA, but I still support them financially. I dropped their information in the chat, Echoes of Incarceration, and Beyond the Bars, Columbia University. We actually have something going on this week.
Okay, so all that you put in the chat?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Melissa. And last but not least, I want to turn it over to Kristen Kampf, who's the director of our Human Migration and Mobility program at AFSC. So Kristen, if you could kind of bring it all together and talk about the broader call for freedom all and abolition. And then if you could close us out, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Anyango. And I just want to, as we close tonight, I just want to honor and say a major thank you to all of our incredible speakers tonight. So thank you so much to Jennifer and Melissa, Charlene and Cheryl, to Denzel, who's I think Charlene and Denzel, who had to jump. And especially thank you to Lewis and Lucy for coordinating too. I just want to say that as you all were sharing your stories, I had so many moments where my heart was touched deeply, and I was reminded of my own journey with a loved one who was incarcerated. And I remember the first time that I went for my first video visit and sitting in a room full of mostly mothers and mothers with children who were there for their visits, and the stories that we shared and the tears that we shared and the love that we shared. And I have been so inspired tonight by the incredible resilience that each of you have expressed for the ways that you have lived into your connections and your bonds across years and across bars. And it has been an extraordinary reminder of why we at AFSC for decades have been calling for abolition, been calling for a world that does not include the kind of incarceration and detention that you all have described, for calling for a world with a different vision. And it's been incredibly sobering for me in my time at AFSC to learn that there are 2.3 million people incarcerated and detained in this country. 2.3 million people. 2.3 million people who have stories like Jennifer, who have stories like Denzel, and as Melissa and all of the people that we've heard tonight, and your family members. And when I think about that, and when I think about the fact that we as a country, we as taxpayers pay $80 billion a year to keep people in cages. $80 billion. And I sit with that number and I can't even imagine what that amount of money could bring for our communities, for all of the children in our lives who are looking for better education, for cleaner parks and streets, and all of the mental health care that we have talked about needing tonight, for all of the services that possibly could exist in our community, and for the ways that we can support community organizing and families and communities coming together to organize for justice. When we just think about that, when we think about all the possibilities, I think that is exactly why we have been coming together at AFSC for the Free Them All campaign. And it's been sobering for me in the 20 years that I've worked on immigration. When I first realized that immigrants arrived in this country too were also sent to detention facilities. I remember the first time I journeyed with a friend we were at the border, and he was detained, and then he was sent to the Otay Mesa facility that Leticia would have spoken about tonight if she'd been able to join us, and going to visit him and going to experience. But I've stood with dozens of other mothers and fathers and sons and daughters outside of facilities who have been calling for change and waiting for people to be released, and realizing that the exact same detention systems that impact the lives of thousands of immigrants are so similar to our incarceration systems, and that all is part of our country's a ridiculous commitment to incarceration as a way of life. And so I think that is why when we look at the things that we can be doing with that money, when we think about the ways that we need to instead be looking at transformative and restorative justice and mediation and conflict resolution and making sure people's basic needs are met and communities are fully funded, but there is, free and accessible drug treatment and mental health services and strong response systems in communities, that we actually could be building out the kind of world we want. Like, I hope each of us tonight will leave with that sense of both resiliency to continue supporting and loving and caring for the people that we know behind bars, and also to be organizing in our communities for a different system and a different world, because we really do believe at AFSC we can do that. And we've, even through the course of this campaign over the last year, which we really decided, especially in this time of the pandemic, when we are seeing thousands and thousands of people behind bars being impacted by COVID, and all of the situations that are happening when that is being especially exacerbated by our carceral systems, that we're definitely calling for more so than ever, but always, for people to be free. And so we hope that you will continue to organize locally, support each other, connect to us here at AFSC, and still believing that there will be a day where we will see abolition as a practice and a way of life in this country. And so you can check out in the chat, it's a very simple website, www.afsc.org/freethemall. We hope you'll go there, that you can, feel free. There's a call to action that you can take to call on our governors and our federal systems like the Bureau of Prisons and Immigrations and Customs Enforcement to stop incarcerating and detaining people. So there's a way you can take action nationally. There are other resources that you can use in your own communities and in your own conversations about why abolition could be an opportunity and could be a choice for all of us. And we hope that you'll use those resources, let us know what you need, and continue to support each other. And finally, again, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you, and especially to these beautiful mothers, Jennifer, Melissa, Charlene, who I'm looking at right now, who I'll be thinking of you this Sunday on Mother's Day, and the ways that you'll be celebrating that and mourning that across bars, and to all of you who are mothers and children who will be celebrating this weekend, celebrating knowing that there is a better world we can live into, and we'll do that together. So thanks everyone for being with us tonight. Thank you for being on the good fight to free them all and fight towards abolition, and let's keep joining together. Thanks everyone. Have a great night.
Good night, everybody. Thank you so much. Happy Mother's Day.